Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Sarah Jacob. Let's get you up to date with the day's top headlines. Farmers are showered with rose petals as they start returning home from Delhi's borders, winding up their 15-month protest. The concrete barricades, a symbol of the government's intransigence on the controversial farm laws, are being taken down. The BJP's pro-farmer pitch ahead of polls in UP. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates a canal project in UP's Balrampur in Purvanchal. Purvanchal accounts for nearly 160 assembly seats out of a total of 403 in Uttar Pradesh that goes to the polls early next year. A tri-service inquiry headed by Air Marshal Manvendra Singh starts probing the Tamil Nadu chopper crash in which General Rawat and 12 others died. The Air Marshal Manvendra Singh is the Indian Air Force's senior-most chopper pilot. India's Omicron tally rises to 33 after a second case is reported in the national capital. Someone who travelled from Zimbabwe. In Mumbai, a 48-hour ban on large gatherings is imposed after 7 new Omicron cases are reported in the state, including a 3-year-old child. Punjab goes to the Supreme Court over the centre's extension of the Border Security Force's jurisdiction in 3 states from 15 kilometres to 50 kilometres from the international border, becoming the first state government to challenge the centre's move to give the BSF more powers. And football legend Maradona's stolen Hublot watch worth 20 lakh rupees is recovered in Assam. And meet the man who showered petals on farmers as they head back home. The top story. An aircraft showered flower petals on jubilant, victorious farmers returning home following the end of their year-long agitation against the contentious farm laws. Thousands of farmers began their journey home after dismantling their makeshift accommodations at protest sites on the borders of Delhi, where they have camped since November last year. As their herculean struggle comes to an end, farmers say they're happy and relieved to be home following the announcement of their suspension of their year-long protest, a protest that successfully forced the Modi government to repeal the laws.
Celebrations at the borders of the national capital as protesting farmers pack up and return home from the protest sites. The longest, largest continuous protest in the history of independent India that went on for 380 days has come to an end.
आज जो फतेह मार्च है इसका श्रेय जो हमारे शहीद हैं जिन्होंने 700-750 लोगों ने अपनी शहीदियां इस आंदोलन में दी है उनके सिर इसका श्रेय जाता है.
Farmers who were doused with tear gas shells, lathi charges and barricades by the police in the national capital were welcomed with showers of flower petals as they made their way home.
यहाँ बहुत अच्छा लगा, बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला.
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, बहुत अच्छा, शादी जैसा. 10 दिनों से हम नाच रहे हैं, गा रहे हैं, सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं. बहुत बड़ी जीत हुई है लोगों की.
हाँ जी, कार बजा रहे हैं. मोर्चा फतेह हो गया. मोर्चा फतेह करके जा रहे हैं जी.
Many like 75-year-old Mahendra Singh and 72-year-old Jagtar Singh, who were among the first to arrive at the protest sites on the day one, will be among the last to leave. They are staying back to continue serving langar as the crowds trickle out and clean the protest site.
हम 26 नवंबर को आ गए थे इधर 27 को और एक साल में जितनी हमने इधर प्रॉब्लम कटी है बरसात की गर्मी की सर्दी की वो भी सब हमने निकाल दिया.
As farmers returned victorious, they also spared a thought for the residents of Delhi, the ground zero of the agitation, demanding the repeal of the 3 contentious farm laws.
दिल्ली निवासियों को इत्थे की संगत को मुलाजमा को दुख पहुंचा है उसदे ਲਈ हम सारे से माफी चाहते हैं.
The Samyukt Kisan Morcha will hold a review meeting on 15th January on the assurances given by the government and whether they have been fulfilled.
आज मीटिंग यहाँ पे हो जाएगी और कल के बाद में आज पैकिंग हो जाएगी, कल सुबह ही 8 बजे यहाँ से बड़ा जत्था निकलेगा, तो उसमें ये है कि काफी संख्या में लोग उसमें निकल जाएंगे।
Meanwhile, as the farmers leave triumphantly, the multiple layers of barricades on the roads, complete with giant nails and huge concrete blocks that had become a symbol of Modi government's intransigence on the farm laws, are now being removed.
The farmers' agitation that started over a year back against the 3 contentious farm laws has become one of the longest, largest continuous protests, not just in India, but across the world. And while the farmers are returning happily now, they claim that they would have been happier had this decision been taken earlier by the government, and it would not have claimed lives of over 700 farmers. With camera person Prem Singh, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
So, the year-long farmers' protest ends. Now, what's next? The Samyukt Kisan Morcha, the umbrella body of the farmers' unions, is to hold a review meeting in January to monitor the developments related to the government's promises. Joining us now is SKM leader Yogendra Yadav. Mr. Yadav, the Prime Minister's surprise announcement to withdraw these 3 farm laws last month wasn't enough. The farmers are vacating the protest sites only after the centre's written proposal on their demands, which include a legal guarantee on MSP, withdrawal of criminal cases against the protesting farmers, etc. But, Mr. Yadav, this is an election year. The government has a political balancing act to do ahead of election in the key crucial states of UP and Punjab. So, what's next? I mean, is there a time limit for the government to review these demands, something like that?
Sarah, we achieved the repeal of 3 laws, which is complete, fully done. No more reviews, no more need to look at it. And it's not just 3 laws. In that sense, it's also an end to the attempts at corporatization of Indian agriculture, of imposing a regime which was completely unacceptable to farmers. That's done and done with. However, we had mentioned 6 other points. The leading of those were 2. One was the immediate issue of cases, on which the government has given us a written assurance. We would like to believe the government, but naturally we would wish to monitor it. So when we come back after a month, we would want to see whether the cases, and mind you, this time it's not merely the cases against agitationists, it's also cases against supporters of Kisan movement that the government has promised to take back. So we shall have to review that. However, the biggest question is that of MSP, on which we have merely achieved a toehold so far. That is something about which we have to plan for future.
So the farmers are maintaining that they will return if the government backtracks on its words. But can you pick up from where you left off, or is this a gamble?
Sarah, the confusion is the moment we talk about Andolan continuing, because now in public perception, Andolan means sitting on national highways and, being there for months. Now, that is only an extreme form, which we had to resort to because everything else failed. Naturally, when we say the Andolan continues, when we say protest has been withdrawn, but the movement continues, it doesn't mean that we would occupy Delhi streets or organize a march to Delhi every time. This is something you do once in a decade or things of that kind. We would review, and we shall think of other forms of protest, which doesn't mean we would jump to the streets on the first possible occasion.
So you could keep the pressure on, but you say once in a decade. Actually, it's the first time in independent India, as we said in our story. You've called it a historic victory. As the New York Times put it, the farmers use their organizational skills, their broad support network, and sheer persistence to force one of the country's most powerful leaders in modern history into a rare retreat. Mr. Yadav, there was a momentum, there was an energy, a drive, a discipline to this movement. Now, I mean, how do you wind up? Or is that going to be channeled elsewhere, or are we just going to let it go? Because, India's farming system still needs to be fixed.
Of course, and it needs to be reformed. The trouble is that the word reform has been captured by those who want to do it for corporate interests. Of course, Indian agriculture needs to be reformed. There are 3 big achievements and 3 big challenges. The first achievement is more than the 3 laws and the repeal and so on. Farmers have recovered their self-esteem. And the challenge is that this recovery of self-esteem now has to be linked to a new blueprint for Indian agriculture. Otherwise, this will be short-lived. Second, farmers have achieved a unity which is absolutely unprecedented in the history of Indian farm movements.
Okay.
The challenge linked to that is to sustain Sanyukta Kisan Morcha, which is a platform of so many diverse organizations. We have to work towards that. And the third achievement is farmers have discovered their political clout, and no government now dare take panga with farmers. The challenge associated with that is that we should not spend the political energy of farmers' movement into small electoral things, 3 or 4 people becoming MLAs, someone becoming a CM. These are petty gains. To my mind, this energy must be utilized for 2 things. Number one, that farmers should control the political electoral agenda. In Uttar Pradesh, I'm interested that the election should be fought on farmers' issue rather than 1 or 2 farmer leaders becoming something. And above all, and that's the last point I wanted to make, Sarah, this new energy must be utilized for reclaiming the republic. That is the larger politics, and farmers today have emerged as the one force that can save democracy, federalism, and the country's unity.
All right. Well, you answered the question I wanted to ask next, but the fact is the SKM's decision to launch that political campaign against the BJP towards the end was perhaps the hardest blow for the government in an election year. So, of course, we'll all be watching to see if farm leaders do join politics in the months to come and eventually contest elections. But you've already spoken about that. Thanks so much, Yogendra Yadav, for joining us on a crucial day today. Thanks for that. Meanwhile, one of the most endearing images of the day, the image of the day today was of those jubilant farmers being showered by rose petals as they began their journey home. There was an aircraft that was arranged by a non-resident Indian. And for more on this, who is this, who arranged this, who got the idea? Joining us now is Khalsa Aid's India Director Amarpreet Singh. Amarpreet Singh, so everyone's keen to know where this came from. Who was behind this?
Yeah, actually, I'm from the aviation background. So 3 days back, I got an idea that we should do the banner towing regarding this moment to capture. So, but unfortunately, we didn't get any permission for the banner towing from the aircraft. So, fortunately, we got the permission for the showering the rose petals. So, yeah, at last we done it, and we are very happy to shower these flowers on the farmers.
Symbolic really, as like blessings from above. But Mr. Singh, you know, from distributing food to providing medical help to installing foot massagers, NGOs like Khalsa Aid, you really left no stone unturned to help protesting farmers at Delhi's borders feel at home. What happens to all of this now? How do you wind down? Are you also going back home to England?
Basically, I'm from the India. I'm an Indian resident. So basically, I'm from Punjab. So right now, we are sitting at the Singhu border, and I'm live from the Singhu border only. So
sure. I mean,
yeah.
the Khalsa Aid, what happens to the entire, you know, the movement, the help that you've been giving? Are you channeling that elsewhere or winding it down?
No, we are winding it down because the decision came from the Sanyukta Kisan Morcha, so we are following that.
Okay, and the organizers, the farmers, protesters, they leaned heavily on Punjabi Sikh diaspora, right? You had big charities like yours, Khalsa Aid International, you're a British relief group raising money for protesters. And also what you did was making sure that the issue went global, right? That these grievances are heard abroad. We saw supporters braving freezing temperatures in Toronto, in Montreal, holding signs outside Indian consulates. I mean, I think, there was Rihanna, Trudeau, everybody speaking up in solidarity. Can you tell us a little bit about, was that a conscious decision?
Yeah, you can say that. But I mentioned one thing that this protest is very near to our hearts because everyone attached with the emotions. So, but every decision came from the, the Sanyukta Kisan Morcha and everyone following that. So, this time we are also following the Sanyukta Kisan Morcha and packing up all the stuff from here.
All right. And lastly, the overall theme was the basic tenets, the philosophy of Sikhism, that is support victims of injustice and basically value of community over the individual.
Yeah, of course. जो ये मोर्चा है वो हमारे सिख सिद्धांत के ऊपर ही सारा क्रेडिट जाता है, बिकॉज हमारी कम्युनिटी को ही ये भाग्य प्राप्त हुआ है कि जब शहीदी हो जाती है उसके बाद भी वहाँ पे डटे रहना और इतनी खुशी से और इतने इमोशंस के साथ यहाँ पे डटे रहना, और आज वापसी हो रही है विद द मतलब सारे इमोशंस के साथ। ये इनकी खुशी है और उन किसानों को श्रद्धांजलि भी है जिन्होंने यहाँ पे अपनी जान जो है शहीदी प्राप्त की है।
All right, thank you so much, Amarpreet Singh, for joining us tonight, and of course those visuals again, flowers being showered on the protesting farmers. All right, let's move on to our next story of the day. After weeks of disruptions to the Friday prayers in Gurugram by right-wing groups, on Friday, the Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar said that offering namaz in open spaces won't be tolerated. That is a quote. Those are his words. The Chief Minister's statement comes amidst a festering row between the two communities that has seen right-wing Hindu groups repeatedly harass and intimidate Muslims looking to pray at agreed sites, at sites allotted by the government.
खुले में ऐसा कार्यक्रम नहीं होना चाहिए। ये नमाज पढ़ने की जो प्रथा यहाँ खुले में हुई है ये कतई भी सहन नहीं की जाएगी, लेकिन इसमें से उन साथ बैठ करके एमिकेबल सोल्यूशन निकाला जाएगा। उन्होंने भी कहा कि बहुत सी हमारे पास ज़मीनें हैं जहाँ हमें अनुमति दी जाए, या कुछ ज़मीनें ऐसी हैं जो उनकी अपनी ज़मीन होगी या वक़फ़ की होगी, उसमें कहीं अनक्रोच्ड एरिया है, वो भी कैसे उनको उपलब्ध कराया जा सके, और या फिर अपने घर में नमाज पढ़ें।
All right, so the Haryana Chief Minister ML Khattar has withdrawn an earlier agreement reached between the government and groups on the ground after clashes with right-wing extremist members of the Hindu community in 2018, an agreement that allowed for namaz at designated places in the city. So, is this about prayer in public spaces, or is there more to this than meets the eye? Joining us now, Altaf Ahmed, the co-founder of the Gurgaon Nagrik Ekta Manch, DP Kaushik, spokesperson of the BJP in Haryana, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in the Supreme Court. Mr. Kaushik, first to you, while announcing this annulment of a previous agreement, the Chief Minister says the Gujarat administration will renegotiate with all involved parties to work out what he calls will be an amicable resolution to the problem. But Mr. Kaushik, isn't this really a shot in the arm for violent hooligans, for hooliganism? Isn't this, in a sense, pandering to right-wing extremists who have basically been violating a government agreement? They have, in a sense, it's like a slap in the face for the government, isn't it? Because the government couldn't enforce an agreement that the government decided on.
देखिए, ये मैटर बहुत पुराना है सरकार का, और इनको काफी बार हम लोगों ने बोला हुआ है। हमारे यहाँ के हिंदू संगठन या सरकार ने भी इंटीमेट किया है। पहले आपको पता नहीं, जयपुर हाईवे एक रोड है नियर राजीव चौक, वहां पे ही लोग करते नमाज पढ़ते थे, पूरा रोड ब्लॉक हो जाता था। तो कई बार अल्टीमेटम देने के बाद भी ये सब शॉर्ट आउट नहीं हुआ। तो अल्टीमेटली इनको जगह के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने बोला भी, आप लोग आपकी अपनी जगह है, आप अपने मस्जिद में जाइए।
ब्लॉक होती थी because of the the hooligans who were protesting the namaz, or by the namaz because the namaz was being carried out in places जो गवर्नमेंट ने अलॉट की थी। तो रोड ब्लॉक कौन कर रहा था?
नहीं, गवर्नमेंट ने कोई अलॉटमेंट नहीं की। मैं कहता रोड पर करते थे ये लोग। आप गुड़गांव की इतिहास उठा के देखिए, जब भी इन्होंने नमाज पढ़ी रोड पे करते थे। अभी जो जगह इन्होंने सेक्टर 12 में पहले किया, वो भी गवर्नमेंट की जगह है। तो ओपनली देखिए, काफी लोगों को
गवर्नमेंट की प्रीवियस एग्रीमेंट वाज ऑल रॉन्ग। द गवर्नमेंट bungled up on its previous agreement, आप कह रहे हो, you're admitting.
Yeah.
कि सरकार didn't do a good job in coming up at a previous agreement.
गवर्नमेंट ने कोई एग्रीमेंट ऐसा नहीं किया था कि आप यहाँ पर कीजिए, ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं। तो गवर्नमेंट को ये डिसाइड इन लोगों को करना कि इनके पास खुद की भी जगह होती है, लोग वहां पे क्यों नहीं होता?
ये लोग का
मतलब बात तो मुस्लिम की नहीं है, बट एक पर्टिकुलर समाज का अगर ये तो फिर हिंदू लोग भी अपने जहाँ खड़े कहीं भी मंदिर बना के बैठ जाएंगे, गवर्नमेंट तो उसको भी बैन लगाती है, ऐसा नहीं है। जो चीज प्रॉपर जगह इनका है वहां पे अपने बहुत जगह पड़ी। गुड़गांव के अंदर बका बोर्ड की इनकी लोगों की समाज की बहुत जगह होती है, वहां पे भी कर सकते हैं, बट ऐसा होता नहीं ना एक्चुअली। दिक्कत ये कि रोड को क्रॉस करना या रोड को जाम करना है, वो पब्लिक प्लेस में करना।
Hold on. Let's go across now to Altaf Ahmed. Altaf Ahmed, the Chief Minister Qatar says that the district administration will identify free areas belonging to the Waqf board that may have been encroached upon to help the community offer prayers. Are you confident of this? You hear the spokesperson here saying that there are enough places, areas where prayer can be carried out. Is that true?
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. This matter has been grossly misunderstood. This is not a matter of Muslims not going to the mosque and praying. It's a matter that, at mosques, the namaz is happening multiple times. It's just that Gurgaon, a city, is planned in a way where mosques have not been, the land has not been given to build mosques. It has to be understood very, very clearly. And that's why we are forced to read in the open under the sun and the rain. And these places are not chosen by us, but it has been actually given to us by the administration in May 2018 when this, the first time these far right-wing groups actually disturbed the Jummah namaz. So from 108 places, this was got down to 37 places. And, we have constantly worked with administration to make sure that, there is no disturbance to the traffic or anything. And these places were spotted where there is no issue with the traffic. Now, in case the CM wants to withdraw these places, then as he said, they need to come up with, they need to assign us, allocate land so that we can build mosques. That is the most important thing. Once they give us the land, we will be, we'll be paying for it, and we don't want it in free, but, we need to be assigned land. And, we have got an application rejected in this November month itself. So multiple times we've applied, to HSVP for signs, and we have requested the CM as well to grant us land so that we can build multi-story mosques, and that will resolve the issue actually.
All right, and I just want to understand
That's
this.
Gurgaon
is home to 26 Muslim institutes. Correct me if I'm wrong, where namaz can be offered, but not all of them are in the newer parts of the city where most jobs are. Is that correct? There
are 13 mosques which are there, of which the new Gurgaon, which has developed in the last 20 years, there are only 2 mosques. One is Eidgah and one is in Sector 57. And Sector 57 has just a capacity of 300 to 350 people. And that too, since 2006, this has been put under litigation. And 350 versus lakhs of Muslim, there's no just comparison to, how people can be accommodated.
Okay. Let me bring in Sanjay Hegde. Sanjay, is this, pandering to extremist sentiments? Because you heard the spokesperson saying no namaz in public spaces, but we don't hear the same government talk about strictures or diktat or roads being blocked or traffic jams when you have frequent religious congregations of other faiths, right? I mean, the Kavaria rallies take place. At that point of time, nobody seems to have the same concerns.
Well, it is certain that the administration is not restricting all religions in the way that this particular religious function is being restricted. But there are certain things which Mr. Altaf Ahmed has also pointed out. Gurgaon, new Gurgaon, came about largely due to private development. There were no community spaces allotted in new Gurgaon for the building of mosques, and that's why the problem. However,
or temples or churches in New Gurgaon?
It doesn't appear to be. Temples may have been built, but may not be mosques. Now, the question to my mind, however, is it illegal to congregate on public land at an assigned spot? The answer obviously is no. There are all kinds of congregations. You can have a education fair, for instance, in a public park. There are gentlemen who congregate every morning in half pants and do some vigorous form of exercising. Public spaces are meant for public to do things individually or in groups, and anything that is not illegal is permitted. Now, congregational prayer out here at specific times of the week is an eventuality which smart administrations plan for. To say that there is something inherently wrong in offering congregational prayer in public, that is, to my mind, a logical fallacy. All religions have various congregations. You have the Ganesh Aartis in Maharashtra, you have Durga Puja in West Bengal. Similarly, every Friday, Muslims congregate near mosques. Sometimes the congregation is so large that it spills over to the road. In most of the country, things go out on that great Indian principle of kindly adjust. It's not as if prayers go on forever. It's a half an hour thing. Most Indians are large-hearted enough. I believe the good people of Gurgaon are also large-hearted. However, there are certain people who seem to have a major problem. Now the question is, whom does the administration pander to? Does it look for the greater good of the greater number, or does it give in to hardliners? Here it seems to be giving in to hardliners.
Something for all of us to think about tonight. Thank you all, Mr. Kaushik, and all of our panelists for joining us on the show tonight on Left, Right and Centre. Thank you.